Please don't sue us. The fact that you're criticising this movie angers me deeply. Also, everything up with wrong.
Spotlight on adventure!
Movie steals the expositional documentary inside the actual movie motif from Citizen Kane.
This movie had an expositional documentary inside the actual movie. That movie had an expositional documentary inside the actual movie, and that's a sin.
The National Explorers Society accuses Bunce of fabricating the skeleton.
Why? Because this guy doesn't know how to use a compass? Or this guy doesn't know how bones work? Or possibly because it's convenient to the plot?
Because people never refute discoveries or come up with conspiracy theories. That just doesn't happen.
If Ellie just saw the same screening of Muntz's documentary, how was she able to find this abandoned house and rig it up to play Explorer before Carl had enough time to walk past it and catch her in the middle of her narrative?
Maybe, just maybe, she saw the same thing, but at a different screening.
Also, when we actually go to Paradise Falls later in the film, we see that it's still completely remote and uninhabited. How do they plan on actually getting there? Are they saving up for their own Zeppelin?
Your criticisms would be perfectly valid if this was a movie set on gritty realism. But you forget, in this universe, all it takes to get to Paradise Falls is a few fucking balloons. Which I definitely think you could buy with a jar full of change.
Also, Paradise Falls is based on a real place in Venezuela called Canaima National Park. And if we make believe that's the actual Paradise Falls, I bet it would be challenging for them to claim residence in a Venezuelan national park.
Jeremy doesn't understand how fictional locations work. So it's based on a real place. Is it actually supposed to be that real place? No, or they wouldn't need the words based on.
And then suddenly, without any warning, Pixar sends you into a montage that is both full of sadness and joy and more sadness, without a word of dialogue spoken. It's like one of those great Pixar shorts that precede all of the full-length features. And I think I just cried a little. It's downright incredible, and we're removing 5 sins for its brilliance.
You're goddamn right.
Earlier, we're told that Carl
poured prune juice in his gas tank.
and that didn't seem to create any issues. But after Carl assaults this worker, he's forced to sell his house and move into an old folks' home. I understand that assault is a worse crime than damage of personal property, but the latter is still a crime, and that seemingly went completely unpunished.
Just because no punishment was mentioned in the movie doesn't mean the crime went totally unpunished. Maybe he was punished for that action and the movie just didn't show us that, which is perfectly reasonable.
Whoa, is this how you steer your house?
You'd think, but Carl has done 0 steering since he got in the air, and it's totally, absolutely amazing he hasn't checked to see if he needs to dodge aircraft or tall buildings. But if you train these balloons well, they know where to go.
I mean, you say he hasn't steered his house yet, but what about this clip you showed less than a minute prior to this of him steering his house? Answer me this, if he is not steering his house there, what is he doing? God fucking damn, this shot is fucking gorgeous. So gorgeous, in fact, that I needed to include 2 fucks in that sentence to fully express how gorgeous I felt it was. I mean, the whole movie is beautifully directed and animated, but this scene just brings it to a whole new level of gorgeousness. The storm clouds look absolutely daunting and completely dwarf the house, giving a really good sense of scale and with that, danger. Everything about this shot, the colours, the composition is just brilliantly done. And this isn't a sin, by the way, I just couldn't hold off praising the visuals of this movie any longer.
How the f*** did they get down here? In the last scene, they were walking along a cliff where there were no trees, but now it looks like they're walking through the thick jungle at the bottom of the cliffs. Did they cut the scene where Russell and Carl decide to take the physically impossible route?
No trees? No trees? What are you talking about? When you look at the wide shot of the cliffs, there's loads of trees right here.
Oh hey, now they're back up on top of the cliff. You'd think since they have access to some kind of wormhole, they'd just use it to magically go to the other side of the cliff, instead of just bouncing from the top to the bottom. But here we are.
Do I actually need to point out the problem with this sin? Because I'm pretty sure that most of you will have guessed by now what the problem with that sin was.
Yo estoy de acuerdo contigo. I use that collar. Watashi wa hanashima to talk with. I would be happy if you
Doug's collar is programmed with Spanish, a southern accent, and Japanese. You know, the 3 main languages.
Yes, of course, we were shown 3 different voice options that translator has, which obviously means that those are the only 3 options for voices that translator has.
Also, if I put this collar on a cow or a chicken, would they be able to speak in the same way? Would that mean that all animals are secretly just as intelligent as we are, but are unable to express themselves? I just became a vegan.
That was not a sin. That was 2 questions followed by a conversion to veganism. Jeremy must learn the difference between 2 questions followed by a conversion to veganism and sins.
And this wouldn't even be a sin if they just stayed on top of the cliff where there are no trees, but instead they keep reappearing in this dense jungle they shouldn't have access to.
Stop it. No.
I think that did the trick.
Hi, Master.
Yep, I'm gonna sin the old pastime of a cartoon character and possibly transporting ahead of the other characters. It's what we do, unfortunately.
Because obviously, the idea of a dog being faster than an old man and a young child carrying a house is ridiculous. Because everyone knows humans are much faster than dogs, especially the elderly and small children.
Whoever gave Russell the tent building patch that I'm sure he has will hopefully be disbarred from the Wilderness Explorer community.
Whoa, hold up a second. Let me get this straight. Are you just deciding that Russell has a badge for tent building and then sinning the movie because it's not a badge you think he should have? Well, if you're prepared to do that, why are you bothering to find any actual sins in this movie at all? Just sin continuity errors that are happening just out of shot. Or sin the fact that we never get to see Russell's pet dragon, even though he definitely has one. I guess my point is, if you're prepared to just make up that much for a sin, why not just go all the way and make up your sins entirely? Also, Jeremy forgets to sin the invisible koala in this scene.
Muntz has been able to maintain a dog army for the past 70 years or so, with presumably very little food and no female dogs.
Okay, I guess I do have to admit when I'm wrong, because it seems like you are just making up sins. Because, honestly, I very much doubt you inspected the genitalia of all those dogs. Or did you just assume that because all of their translators have male voices that they are all males? Because that is not how translators work. Either way, this is a sin. I've just realised that Carl must take fashion advice from Matt Smith.
Either that's a 70-year-old frozen hot dog, or he's making his own hot dogs out of the local squirrels. There's also the dog army.
God damn it, Jeremy! First you assumed that because we weren't shown Carl being punished for pouring prune juice into a petrol tank that he wasn't punished. Then you assumed that because we were only shown 3 voices on the dog translation collars that there were only 3 voices on the dog translation collars. And now you appear to be saying that there are only squirrels and dogs in this jungle because we've only seen squirrels and dogs, which is far-fetched in itself because we've also seen a bird.
More often I get thieves come to steal what's rightfully mine.
You do? You mean there are actual people out there making trips to remote parts of South America to steal your
Well, that can't be right because we didn't see it on screen and therefore it didn't happen!
The old man and the out-of-shape child are able to outrun a pack of dogs.
Oh, so now the dogs should be faster than Carl and Russell.
Dog helm scream.
I mean, no, not really.
It is funny because the squirrel gets dead.
All the dogs have an extreme hatred for squirrels, yet we haven't seen a single squirrel since we've been in Paradise Falls. At least not since Muntz got the hot dog machine up and running.
Then I guess that means they don't exist.
On some of these pictures Carl flips through in Ellie's scrapbook, I can honestly say, where is camera? You're telling me they set up a delay on a camera and got these candid shots? Or did they have a photographer constantly following them around? If they'd trimmed the professional photographer budget, they probably could have eked out a trip to Paradise Falls.
Or maybe, just maybe, they had a friend who owns a camera. You know, I'm just saying it's a distinct possibility.
The dogs can cook a gourmet meal and tie a human boy to a chair, but still need a chew toy to fire a gun on a biplane.
I don't think that's a sentence that anyone has ever said before.
Also, the dogs never get picked up after this battle is over, so I can only assume they live the rest of their lives starving in the Venezuelan jungle.
Oh, because a dog would never be able to find anything to eat in a jungle.
I don't know too much about dirigibles, but I would imagine having a house on the back would screw with the balance and create an issue.
Except the effective weight of the house is being decreased by the balloons, so much so that Carl can make a difference to its path by pulling on it. This means that the house isn't applying that much downward force to the dirigible at all. Hey, Endscreen crowd, I'm here to tell you to keep an eye out on April 1st because something very special might be being uploaded. Also, here's some music.